Welcome back to another episode of Virteva's Let's Talk podcast, the show that analyzes the newest technologies in cloud and how to manage the use of those technologies to help your business teams be successful. My name is Scott Ledwan, and today we're joined by Todd Strand, our security and end user computing manager at Virteva. Todd, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Scott, hi. Glad to be here, doing well, and just really excited to
Awesome.
talk.
Well, it's always a happy situation to have new voices and new faces on the show. This is episode 8. And we've been doing a lot of these over the past couple of months, so it's great to continue to kind of spread the wealth and invite new people on. Before we begin, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our early listeners and remind you that a like, subscribe, or follow is very helpful in promoting the show. So if you can take a moment, that would be greatly appreciated. We've also been seeing a lot of engagement on YouTube, which is awesome. So a big thanks to the early adopters that have been watching the show there. We're also hosted on Apple, Google, Spotify, and all the other major podcast platforms. So if you're looking for a quick listen rather than a watch, you can catch up with us there too. Oftentimes, the audio-only version will go up before the video version. So if you're looking for an early listen before the video version goes up, please check us out on your podcast app. All right, so let's get into it. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the recent news around Microsoft being named a leader in the 2023 Enterprise Email Security Wave by Forrester. This is pretty big news, and it edges them really one step closer to kind of like the big market players out there like Proofpoint, Cloudflare, which have been fairly dominant in the field for a number of years. For those unfamiliar with Forrester Wave, that report evaluates enterprise email security providers and helps security professionals select the right one for their needs. There's a lot of choice out there today in that field with email security, and it's really been entering a golden age due to mass customer migration to the cloud, machine learning, widespread adoption just across different services. And one of the interesting things that gets called out on this report too is that there's a lot of organizations out there that'll have something like a Microsoft or a Google or just a different platform in general, and they will, in a lot of cases, I think it's something like 80% of companies always use a different kind of like email hygiene provider, just email security provider to kind of add that extra layer. In Microsoft, again, through your 365 subscriptions, whether it be E3, E5, F, you have a lot of this stuff built in from the security layer, at least at kind of like the Defender for Office Plan 1. So really, there's a great return on investment story here, and we're going to be talking about that throughout the podcast. Todd, what are your initial thoughts on the Forrester Wave announcements?
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment and achievement for Microsoft to be recognized in that space, and it really is a testament to what they've invested in and recognized as needing to close some gaps and really shore up their offering in that space. Um, the accolade and the recognition that it gives to Microsoft, it holds a lot of weight within the industry. I think it also lends a lot of credibility to the fact that when people are making decisions on what type of product to purchase and how all-encompassing a tool needs to be in today's kind of state of enterprise IT, is that it gives an indication that Microsoft sees that as a space that they're deeper are investing more deeply into, and see that as proof and evidence that those efforts haven't gone
Yep. And
unnoticed.
there's definitely a rise in cybersecurity threats, like we talked about in our newsletter a couple of weeks back. The changes that they made to kind of their taxonomy and the way that they kind of look at different nation states, and they're coding them as what is like different tropical storm levels and stuff like that, or different weather events. So Microsoft is taking a look at that, and that doesn't just encompass email, but kind of just security as a whole. But just in general, it looks like Microsoft is taking quite a bit more of a holistic approach to email security. And by that, I mean, Defender it's everywhere in the Microsoft stack. There's an antivirus component. There's that extended detection and response solution that they have. Defender for Cloud, multi-cloud, and then of course what we're talking about today, which is Defender for Office 365, or MDO, as I'm sure we'll call it throughout the show. And what that really focuses on is it's not just email, but it's also protecting files in SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive. The stack for Defender is really spread out. And I feel like the Defender for Office 365 was always kind of good enough. But what we've been seeing recently is that hey, it was kind of a little bit weaker in some of the different areas, and Microsoft is generally trying to take more of a focus at it right now, whereas in previous years we've seen like XDR get a lot of love. And overall, like the biggest thing that I've seen from like running our workshops and kind of keeping up and trying to keep speed with everything that changes so fast is after they kind of did that partnership with Terra Nova a few years back for attack simulator training, is man, that's gotten so much better. Like everyone that we would sit down and talk with on these crash courses would say, well, we use Proofpoint and we use Know Before. And Know Before is, I mean, here and there, depending on how many different campaigns you're doing a year, is it can get pretty expensive or it can be inexpensive. But Microsoft just building in a little bit more to that and continuing to expand, especially on the end user training piece of it, is showing a lot and going a long way to continue to build on the product.
Yeah, and in to go a little bit deeper into that, I think that what we've seen more recently, specifically in the space of user education and awareness, they're built out of their library of training content, not only for phishing simulations, but also for just general security awareness training, whether it be for new employees starting with an organization or an annual campaign to kind of go through and educate end users on what to watch for, has been built out exponentially. I mean, there's over 70 different offerings in that space now. I know that they're working with Sands Institute to build that out even further, and look forward to seeing what they offer in that space. But I think what Forrester really noted was the options and the solutions that are getting deeper into that space have made it more highly competitive, have made Microsoft more of a forward thinker and a leader in that space, and kind of gives that, I guess, peace of mind to know that the investment that you're making with the Microsoft security solution and tool set is not just, what it is today is what it's going to be, is that they're always looking to stay competitive and relevant and be leaders in all of those
Yep. Yeah.
spaces.
Important to note too that you can have the best security detection system in the world for email, but stuff is still going to get through occasionally. So it's not always just about, oh, stop everything that comes in the gate. Because I mean, Defender has the options where you can kind of change the slider from 1 to 4 on the phishing settings. And most clients that we work with, as soon as they go to 2, email starts getting blocked unintentionally. So general Microsoft's recommendation is to keep it between 1 and 2, not really to go a whole lot higher than that, unless maybe you're in like a government sector. But at the end of the day, like when I receive an email from a client and say, how are all these phishing emails getting through? And I was like, well, some of them are going to get through. The important part is that if you don't want to be affected by them, you need to regularly have a cadence to train your employees. And you can do that through attack simulator training, or you can do it through email or SharePoint or however you want to set it up. I know internally at Virteva, we do some security based training that's done through like video work, but we'll also run our own simulations. So
Hmm.
basically, what I'm getting at is I'm a little off course on the Defender stuff, kind of dipping too much into attack simulator training. But if someone's looking to attack you or phish you, they will find a way to get in and to kind of do that social engineering. Taylor talked about that on our last show about how the easiest way to get in is just, you call up a customer and you say that you're so and so, and you find a way in. This just happened recently with a client that we were working with where Microsoft rolled out the number matching for identification with your authenticator. And a customer got a call and said, hey, you just got prompted on your authenticator. Can you tell me what that number is? I'm with the help desk. And the customer told the person on the phone what the number was and approved the prompt and let the intruder in. So you have to really be careful. It's not just about necessarily phishing an email, but just general best practice security education for your employees.
I think you touched on something that's important to maybe just mention a little deeper, is the functionality of the tool of MDO, or Defender for Office 365 itself, is, as an admin, as a person who works with the tool and works with our team to support this for ourselves and for our customers. Microsoft has taken an approach that they really look at it through the lens of an analyst and somebody that's working with the tool to be able to tune things. It's not just a large scale setting and configuration that should apply universally to all organizations. And through consulting with a business and talking through kind of what threats exist and what we're seeing, and we're constantly tuning those configurations and settings to be able to make the business function at its full capability, but still keep users and email as secure as possible, as well as into other areas like Teams and
Yep.
SharePoint
And I'm sure
and
I'm going to
OneDrive.
steal some of your talking points here, Todd. But one of the other things I think that makes Microsoft really powerful in this space is that they are so big. And because they are so big, they have that vast amount of kind of like signal data, robust threat research data that they kind of pull in. And not only pull in, but they're paying for a lot of that through a lot of different companies. So if you have a CrowdStrike or a Proofpoint or a Mimecast, like a lot of the same stuff that they're seeing, likely Microsoft is seeing that, and that's based on kind of size, capital, et cetera. So that's gives them kind of a unique advantage. Again, I think one of the shortfalls is that they are so big and they do so much in different areas that they fall behind sometimes in one area while they're focusing on another. But they're even building in capabilities we've seen recently, like third-party applications like Slack and Box. You can kind of get a little bit more in Defender for Office 365 with that stuff, albeit it can be limited at times because they're not going to allow you to do everything with it. But kind of like some of that additional like comprehensive data through Microsoft Compliance Center and DLP in email labeling, like that also starts to fold into the MDO stack and the 365 stack as a whole. Uh,
Mhm.
any areas, Todd, where you feel like Microsoft falls short compared to competitives? Like we talked about it a little bit just now, but like what specifically do you kind of see out there in the field when talking to customers?
Yeah, I think that in general, visibility with reporting is always an area that should be evaluated. And I think that Microsoft, while we've seen some improvements in that space, and it's obvious that they recognize that, it still probably leaves a little to be desired. But I do think that that's coming along, and I do think that through our experiences and understanding of things and how to correlate some of that data can help bridge that gap a bit and have some of our expertise lend some credibility to what the data suggests. There's also some, with tuning any type of tool across all of the tools that exist, some malicious things can get through, and I think that that's why Microsoft, gathering the signals that they do. That I mean, it's approaching I think 20 trillion signals daily
Uh-huh.
across endpoints and email. Um, Helps to give them some better ways and mechanisms for securing against threats. But some things do get through, and I think that in conjunction with those limitations and those gaps, working with an organization that can help to tune things to the level that they need to be, and or accept risk, but maybe focus a little bit more on user education and awareness, can help to solve some of those shortcomings, and hopefully Microsoft can find some solutions to minimize those shortcomings in the future.
Watchers, if you're a customer today and you're heavily invested in Microsoft, their security offerings. So you are kind of taking advantage of some of the other Defender products. Maybe you're not even using the security offerings and you're really you've got it for like Teams and Word and Excel on kind of like those basic E3s, but you're using like a Mimecast or a Barracuda. With how Microsoft has been developing, and especially with the announcement around the Forrester Wave stuff, do you think that it's worthwhile for customers that are already in the stack to maybe take a second look at Defender for Office 365 and see if that'll meet their needs and consider moving over?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen anecdotally instances and situations where a customer might have another tool in place, but they may have partial or full licensing for the Defender for Office 365 tools. It starts with a conversation. It starts with digging into that a little bit and understanding what's there, what can we do, how can we maybe reduce our spend to be able to get at least as good of, or if not better, offerings and tools around that. So it's certainly worth the effort and discussion around what capabilities exist within that, and even in the user education space, to be able to provide some awareness training and be more targeted specifically with maybe some phishing campaigns or those types of things are extremely beneficial. And I would recommend anybody listening that's looking at it or hasn't considered it to take a deeper look and understand its capabilities.
Agreed. Yeah, and that everything you just said really sounds a lot like what I talk about when I do some of our advisory workshops with some of our consulting team members. Is I think that as an IT admin specifically, is oftentimes they can be the most hesitant to want to move from a tool that they're familiar with to a different tool. But as kind of like an IT business leader, sometimes you have to look at the products holistically. You need to understand um, what can it do for us? What are we paying for? Are we paying for this two, three, four times over with different products? And how do we save the company money? I mean, it's 2023. The wave that we've been seeing in kind of the trend line is that across the board, CTOs, CIOs, CEOs are all talking about how do we reduce spend, how do we reduce cost in kind of this unstable economy. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer to at least look at it. If you're considering switching or you're getting close to either the end of licensing with another product that's doing some of these hygiene functions for you today, or if you're approaching an enterprise agreement renewal with Microsoft, is see where you can kind of this is the place where you come from, where you have the most strength, is to kind of negotiate back and forth with Microsoft and try and save a little bit, move some different products and tiers and licensing around. So I'll get off my soapbox on that. To learn more about Forrester's recent enterprise email security rankings, you can visit Microsoft's security blog or www.forrester.com/blogs to learn more about the Forrester Wave. We're going to take a short break, and then we will be right back.
Cybersecurity risks are surging, and company budgets and capabilities are quickly falling behind. IT leaders face the daily challenge of protecting company data while not disrupting employees. Most have tackled the basics, but they lack the guidance and know-how needed to keep up with the speed of threats. At Virteva, we work with you to align Microsoft's security tools with Zero Trust best practices, assessing, designing, implementing, and managing them for you based on your goals. With Virteva, you can fully leverage Microsoft's best-in-class suite of tools and help your business thrive. Receive world-class security experience and accelerate your cybersecurity capabilities with Virteva. Learn more at virteva.com.
And we're back. All right, let's move on to the next topic, artificial intelligence. So we've been talking about this a lot on the show over the past couple of weeks, and it's something that's likely not going away. This is the 2022 metaverse term, I think. So this will probably continue to keep coming up, but as AI is rapidly advancing and impacting various industries, we've talked about a number of times on the show what we kind of think is going to happen. But Todd, since this is your first visit, I'd love to hear what your take on is, what the overall effect on AI, on cloud security is going to be, and even maybe how it's going to change the way our teams work when we're reviewing stuff from a SecOps level.
Yeah, it's a good question, something that gets asked fairly often. I think AI has the potential and is proving to kind of revolutionize cloud security. We look at things like the amount of signals and the amount of alerts that security teams have to analyze and respond to. And just in the matter of the last few months, Microsoft has continued to leverage AI and build that out further. That it helps to be able to give analysts a little more time to spend on real threats and real alerts. It's continually assessing the telemetry and the data that's coming in to correlate to things within your environment, but also back to Microsoft's overall expansive view of signals that they correlate against and threat actors and that sort of thing. So it's really going to and has revolutionized the ability to deploy countermeasures for specific threat scenarios. It helps to correlate, and we talk about the extended detection and response, and how we were talking about Defender for Office 365 ties into that. Just the overall ability to correlate across multiple vectors to be able to understand and respond more accurately and more quickly to mitigate risks and contain them more effectively.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that in the year of 2023, a lot of folks associate AI with ChatGPT or Duet AI or Bard or a number of the different solutions that are out there. And what most people probably don't realize is that Microsoft made this big investment into OpenAI a number of years back. And even before that, they were investing in AI. So things like extended detection and response and some of the automated investigation framework and even some of the ZAP protocols have already actually been using AI on the back end. So while those features aren't new and probably getting enhancements, ultimately, I think the thing that everyone's really excited about is how Copilot's just going to kind of plug into that, so that like Defender TI, we talk about we've talked about on some of our previous conversations with like advisory service clients, and even maybe a little bit on some of the previous podcasts and videos that we've done. Is that is a great tool for kind of bringing everything into a pane of glass. But once you add Copilot into the mix, likely later this year, is it's going to empower security operations associates to really be able to go in there, either kind of scrape the screen, understand the data a little bit faster, summarize it, and even potentially maybe start plugging some of like those Defender TI and automated investigation framework pieces to it to make not only those incidents run a little bit faster and you'd be able to resolve them a little bit faster, but as we've talked about, I'm sure everyone's heard through the grapevine, is like there's like 3 million open cybersecurity roles out there. And does AI get us to the point where maybe there's only 1.5 million, maybe there's only 500,000? Like, time will tell, obviously, on how great this technology is going to be and what it's going to do the workforce. But one of the things that Taylor was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about, is like, hey, this is all great for resolving stuff, but what kind of doors does this open for the malicious actors? And that's something that I think that cybersecurity associates are probably they've got their eye on that more than everybody else. It's just looking for, how can we save money? How can we make things easier? Because with the advent of AI and generative AI and the ability to start writing scripts on a whim, it'll probably become a bigger problem in something that has to kind of get like tamped down and pulled back on a little bit.
Yeah, I think the cybersecurity community has a healthy dose of kind of
Skepticism.
skepticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And really being able to say, okay, we understand that these tools exist for our benefit and can really help us in a lot of ways, but we want to prove it. We want to kind of crawl, walk, run before we're willing to fully embrace it. And I think Microsoft's approach in some of their recent um, uh, webinars that they've presented to partners has really shown that there's ways to leverage AI that doesn't have to be intrusive and take in your own data and utilize that in a manner that would be outside of your control.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about ways to be able to empower individual team members to be able to get the right information for a particular alert that's correlated directly to what's happening in your environment, as well as all the other factors that would require some manual research and digging to find. I think that that's where we're going to see the gap in the availability of resources to help in the industry. Is not to say that that AI is going to take jobs away.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to bridge that gap and make it more approachable for a broader audience of team members and more affordable for organizations to leverage it. So I think you should have some skepticism about what its capabilities are, but do it in a meaningful, managed way that you can leverage it. That's going to impact your organization in the best possible way, and it should be fully utilized and embraced.
Yeah, certainly not doom and gloom. I saw something in the news earlier today where the post was 43% of CEOs think that AI will destroy the world in the next 5 to 10 years, and I I don't think that it's going to be that bad. We're not talking about like generative AI, and I think that this is the common misconception is when most normal folks think about artificial intelligence is they immediately like point their brain towards the Terminator movies from like the 90s, and that's not what generative AI is really going to be able to do. I mean, granted, yes, you could probably give it some controls to start controlling more systems, but if you're really just if it's call and response, it's not going to be able to do that stuff as easy. So I think that regulation is important around it, and we're seeing more of that happen with different countries around the world right now. And I imagine that the U.S. is going to start to jump on board with that as well soon. But there'll be some regulation on it, where it's not it's not going to be we're going to give the Bing bot keys to the nuclear codes at any point in time. So,
Well, it's also worth pointing out, as you mentioned earlier, this has been in the works for a very long time, and this is not something new to organizations like Microsoft. There's the response at which with which they were able to integrate with these tools was built out a long time ago. It would have taken a long time for them to be able to respond to it. And they leverage the publicity and notoriety that it's getting? Absolutely.
yep.
But I think it's coming at the right time and that they had prepared for it. Another real quick piece that I should mention, and we're talking through the lens of security, but what this is going to do to an individual employee's contributions and ability to be more efficient with their jobs is spend less time on menial tasks and be able to focus on, how do I leverage a tool that I can feed in the information that's relevant, get an output of that, review it, and send along or send an email or send a proposal or that sort of thing
Mm-hmm.
in a more efficient way that is more conscientious of their time. So it's beyond just leveraging it for security purposes. It's going to be present across all employees in some form or fashion in the very near future.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I'm keeping a close eye on too is there's a lot of big players out there, so like Microsoft, Google. I've seen HubSpot's getting involved in it, Oracle starting to get involved with the IBM. The one player that's sitting out, and they traditionally do sit out, is Apple is not making any plays in this space right now. And they just announced their virtual reality mixed spatial headset that's coming out next year for like $3,500, which seems insane because who's got that kind of cash for a
Hmm.
headset that has a 2 hour battery life? But I was very skeptical, and I think a lot of other tech enthusiasts were until they actually got their hands on it, and that is actually turning out. I mean, Apple did the same thing with the iPhone years ago. Is there was Windows phones and Android for 2, 3, 4 years before an iPhone showed up on the scene, and then they revolutionized that space. So if we're looking at 2030 down the road, and Apple starts to step in, like, do they start making some big advancements in that space because they kind of watched what was happening and designed around it to make it a better experience? So that'll be interesting. I mean,
Yep.
that's a lot of future thought there, but we'll keep an eye on it. All right. So last topic, because we're trying to keep this one a little bit shorter this week, I wanted to just talk about Virteva's managed services. And specifically, I wanted to call out that Virteva recently attained its Microsoft Cloud Partner Program security accreditation, which Virteva's been a modern work partner for a number of years, and the security accreditation really kind of puts us into this new elite status with Microsoft from a partnership status, whereas we have both security and modern work accreditations now. Todd, you manage our EUC and our security teams. Tell us a little bit more about what this accreditation means for our professional and managed services teams and the services that we can deliver based off of it.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Really excited about it, and just really proud of the team for going out there and achieving this. It's been a long road to get there to achieve it, and it's been, guidance and allocating time to individuals to study. We've done some group study sessions, but at the crux of it, we've got multiple individuals on the team who have achieved our certifications to represent and showcase our abilities to work with the Microsoft security tools and modern work tools
Mm-hmm.
at a very deep level. I would say that it's a relatively small group of partners that would have both the modern work and the security designation, and it really just exemplifies what our commitment to our customers is, to understanding their environments, to securing their environments, and being an advocate for advancing the leveraging of tools and being able to utilize their investment to the fullest extent possible. What it means from a professional services perspective is, we have to deploy X amount of deployments of security tools and modern work capabilities. We have to have customers that are consuming a certain amount of usage or data within those, and we have to be able to prove that and have attestations from our customers on that. And so it's not just the certification piece, it's not just the consumption piece, but it's really Microsoft has made it into such a way that you need to show that you have a deep, thorough understanding of these technologies And as a result of that, it's opened a lot of doors for conversations from customers that really recognize what that is and what that means, and what our team's capabilities are from a professional services project perspective,
Mhm.
and then ongoing management and operations of customers' environments in the modern work and security space.
Yeah, and that's all great. And I mean, I don't want us to spend too much time kind of patting ourselves on the back, but I do want to really acknowledge that we have quite a number of techs and consultants that sat down and spent dozens and dozens of hours working towards these different certifications and accreditations with Microsoft to not only attain kind of the associate level, but also in some cases expert levels in the security and modern work areas. So these folks have spent a lot of time on this, and they deserve a round of applause, one that we're certainly not going to give on the podcast. But I mean, if you bump into anyone, if you're working with us, and you see those little badges show up in their signature, is they put a lot of time into that stuff. So we do a lot of work with different customers on professional services engagements, and a lot of that is like implementing, doing assessments, advisory work. But we also have managed service solutions. Can we talk about how these accreditations and these skill sets kind of tie into some of the different types of work that we can do for customers now?
Sure. Yeah. I think what it speaks to is an organization that does managed services for a customer can have a run book. We can put a run book in front of our team and say, if this type of thing happens, do this. If this sort of scenario occurs, here's how you fix this. But what this does for us is gives us a much deeper approach to managing and operationally providing not only support but recommendations on how to best leverage the tools that we manage for our customers. Microsoft has they release so many
Mm-hmm.
updates so frequently, and if we pay attention to the message center within Office 365, you see it's constant. It's never ending. So the ability to understand not only that updates are coming and changes are happening, but also what does this impact to end users? What is the impact to the business, and how can they best leverage new features or functionality within those tools? That's really where our understanding and proven capabilities with getting these designations shows that we can do that on behalf of customers, and that we want to partner with our customers to be not just a transactional, managed services provider, but really be consultative and advisory around how to improve their environments, how to make their end users more productive while securing the organization as much as possible, and in a meaningful way that means something to that business. So it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's never what we're doing for one organization may vary differently for another, and there's valid reasons for that. And every organization is kind of at their digital transformation and security journey in different places. So we understand that, and we have an approach and the knowledge on the team across getting these certifications and deployments and management to be able to really effectively do that for any organization that we support, and want to roadmap out new opportunities and new ways to leverage the tools that they're paying for.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great feedback on that piece. And I mean, it's not just about securing the environment. It's also, especially when we talk about, and I don't want to take anything away from our professional services team because they do a great job, but even the managed services team it's always about improving the overall user experience, whether you're working just with a project team or you're delivering on like SecOps work or service desk or EUC every day. It's about interacting with the customers, our folks knowing what they're doing, feeling confident in that, and then making the customer feel confident that they're receiving the best possible support that they can. So this is great. Like
Yep.
we've been modern work partners for quite some time at this point, and now stepping into the security realm is really going to open up a lot of doors for us to start to show where we really have that breadth of knowledge and where we can help. Okay, well that wraps the discussion for today. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, Todd, and certainly hope to have you back in the future. For more information on the recent Forrester Wave announcements, you can visit Forrester's website. And for more information on AI, you can, of course, listen in here, take a look at the Microsoft blog where they're constantly posting all the new happenings in AI and how they're tying in. We're in the middle of June right now, and AI is coming to Windows 11 at the end of the month. So I'm super excited to see how that's going to play out. As always, if you have any questions or you need help implementing or managing any of these features of Microsoft 365, feel free to contact Virteva. We are a leading IT managed service provider and can help you with all of your IT needs. You can email us at letstalk@virteva.com or visit our website at www.virteva.com. Want even more Microsoft news? Well, guess what? You can also sign up for our Microsoft 365 newsletter by visiting the website. The newsletter, kind of the aim for that is that we try and recap on a handful of topics throughout the month that either get posted on Microsoft's site or that we kind of just see through Message Center, etc. To kind of keep you in the loop about those announcements. We came up with the idea of starting to do more of these frequent podcasts a couple of times a month so that we didn't have to wait the entire month to deliver on that news. So sometimes you'll hear stuff here that maybe shows up in a future newsletter, and other times we might spend more time on a specific topic that doesn't get included in a newsletter. So if you're interested in more of that monthly dose outside of the podcast, feel free. We can shoot that to your email. All right. Thank you again for listening to the Virteva Let's Talk podcast. Again, don't forget to hit those like, subscribe buttons, and have a great day. Take it easy, y'all.